ABN has exciting and great news to announce to you. Europe and South America can now watch the ABN Digital Tree channels through the following platforms and devices: Android phones, Android tablets, Android TV boxes, Sony Smart TVs, and Sharp Smart TVs. This is in addition to Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick TV, Roku Box, as well as our websites, abnsat.com and trinitychannel.com. Be sure to hurry and purchase any of these devices to experience the high-quality channels from the digital tree. In order to keep the digital tree running, remain fruitful, and multiply in more channels, please show your support and donate. For more information, please call the numbers at your screen.
ABN viewers, how do you watch our programs? Do you watch on satellite, online, or even through our IPTV boxes? Do you like to watch our shows on your iPad, your iPhone, or even on YouTube? Please contact us at 248-416-1300 and let us know which way you see it best.
You are watching Trinity Channel.
Welcome. Welcome to In the News with Jim Bishay. I am Jim Bishay. Today, we're gonna pick up from where we left off last time. We are at a time where we, again, under fundamental attack. And I want you to pay very close attention to tonight's show. We are basically almost at a social war between Welcome to In the News with Jim Bishay. I am Jim Bishay. Tonight, we will cover what we left off from last time a week ago. We talked about our fundamental rights, how important it is to vote in this coming election, which is about 19 days away. And I would like you to pay very close attention, please, to what is gonna happen if you do not vote. Our fundamental rights, we discussed that last time, is really on the line. And everything else really is on the line. We talked last time, if you remember, about cancel culture and how we are being censored, how we are being silenced, okay? Our speech is not free anymore. Our even media posts, you can try to post something on Facebook or Twitter, whatever platform you choose. And if that sometimes leaning towards one group or one party, especially conservative groups, you are very likely going to be censored. And we discussed a lot of that last week. So, with that in mind, we need to really pay close attention why our system works the way it does and why you are very important, my precious viewer, to be part of what's happening, is to be part of the voting system. If you are a US citizen and you are above 18 or over, you are entitled to vote, and no one can take that civic liberty, civic right away from you. Okay, so we last time also we talked about our freedoms. We're going to go over it very quickly and about our election system. But first of all, I want to take you for just a hypothetical, which is really not a hypothetical, but it's a question. Have you ever wondered why our freedom of speech, our freedom of the press, our freedom of religion to worship, our freedom to our right to bear arms, all these freedoms are put together in the amendment? Why is that? I'll tell you why. That's because our fathers and framers knew quite well that all these freedoms have to go together. We cannot basically have one freedom without the other. Okay, so if you are basically censored, guess what? You are censored on say Facebook. That's no freedom of the press because you are not allowed to say your voice. Your voice is not being heard. That's your God-given right under the Constitution. You are allowed to speak. You are allowed to express yourself. You are allowed to worship. You are allowed to gather. The freedom of assembly and the freedom of petitioning the government. If the government violates any of these rights, guess what? You take him to court. And that's what this system is built on. Some people would think, well, should we really take government to court? Yes, absolutely. If your freedoms are being violated, absolutely you need to take whoever violated those freedoms, whether it's a federal government, a state, or even individuals. You know, I'm not really saying you go out and sue everybody, but I'm saying that these are God-given freedoms that you need to take very seriously, and that's basically what our framers put in the Constitution. You have this slide which we showed last time about our freedom in the Constitution and all these wonderful laws being included in one document called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And if we go to the next slide, just as a review, I'm going to go over that, and this way you are with me to carry on with what we're going to cover tonight, okay? And you would see right in front of you the three branches of government. We covered that it's the legislative branch, which we call Congress, two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then we have the executive branch, which is the president, the vice president. We have also different departments, secretaries at the top of these departments, including Department of Defense, Department of State, which is Foreign Affairs, Department of Interior, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Veterans Affairs, and so on and so forth. These are all departments under the executive branch, which is headed today by President Donald J. Trump. Okay. Now, the third one is the judicial branch. Okay, and that's when I explained last time that we have the federal system, the federal court system. Don't confuse that with the individual state systems, which is mirrored after the federal system. The federal system, it starts with the district court. So if you have a federal case, say someone silenced your voice, someone violated, there are many cases even on TV nowadays, you would see that there are some different violations about people's rights. And that's where you pursue those in federal courts, because it's about the Constitution, about the precedent. What I mean by the precedent, not the president. Precedent is what the legislatures enacted, but the judicial looked into it. It's what I'm saying basically, when there was a case similar to it, even 20, 30, or even 100 years ago, that sometimes becomes law until it's overruled. We're going to talk a lot more about that later on, hopefully, if we have the time. Okay? So we have the executive branch, and then we have the judicial branch, the federal branch, which starts with the federal court, what we call the trial court, which is called the district court. Okay? The trial court, which is the entry level of federal courts, called the district court. And then we talked also about second level. In law, you call those trial courts trier of facts. Basically, the judge wants to know the facts of the case, and he goes, sides with one or the other. And those federal judges, about 800 of them nationwide, all throughout our system, our states, throughout this great land of ours, these are all appointed also by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Okay, so here you see the interaction between our branches of government. So you start with the federal district court, then you have the appellate court, which is called the circuit court, and that's like a court of appeals. Every 2, 3, 4 states sometimes have that. Okay, and you see here on this slide that is right in front of you, you have the federal courts and 9 justices. After, if you go through the system, you go through the first level, which is called trial court or district court. Then you go through court of appeals. If there is a question of law, just let that one go for now. We can explain it later. If there is a question, basically how the law was applied to your case in the lower court, then the court of appeals, the circuit court, looks at it. And then if that is still contentious, basically, and say it's in contradiction with what, if you have circuit court in the second district, in the second circuit court of appeals, versus say the 9th circuit court of appeals, which is California, Oregon, what have you. If there is contention, what I mean by that, if there is disagreement, one court came with one conclusion and the other court under the same federal system came with a different conclusion, whether it's abortion or rights, all these are federal rights and tried in federal courts. And that's when it goes to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is free to either take the case on and decide, and if it decides, it becomes a law. That specific situation becomes a law. So you see here why this Supreme Court justices, the 9 of them, are very, very, very important. Why? Because they are the ultimate word on interpreting the law. So we have a constitution, and they are blessed or entrusted to tell us what that means. And when another law is written through Congress, guess what? And there is someone say, well, that's not constitutional. Nowadays we hear about Obamacare, the ACA, okay, Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare. Some people say it's unconstitutional. It's right in front of the Supreme Court. Actually, they will look at it on November 10th. So having said that, I'm going to move into the next slide. And that basically will explain, again, our system, as we mentioned last time. And that's back to the legislative branch, which is Congress, 2 houses, the Senate on top, blue and red. And then you have the House of Representatives on the bottom. Those dots are representing, each one represent a member of Congress. On top, we have 100 members. Okay, these are all elected officials, as we said. And every state elects 2 senators every 6 years. I hope you remember that. Every 6 years. Okay, and I said last time they rotate. So not all of them come up for election at the same time, and our system is literally dysfunctional because all the senators are busy with their campaigns. So the system doesn't work that way. But every 6 years, there are rotations. For example, in 2018, okay, to 2024, you have, say, section of these senators are up for election, and then in 2020, different sector of them going into up for election, and so forth, every 2 years. Okay, that's when we hold our elections. Now, for in the House of Representatives, you also see blue and red. Usually, traditionally, the blue is Democrats, red is Republicans. This particular basically sketchy here, it shows more red than blue, but in reality today, after 2018, that switched. So you would have more Democrats in the House of Representatives than than Republicans, and vice versa in the Senate. That means more Republicans in the Senate just today. That could have changed November 3rd, by the way, the upcoming election in 19 days. But we said 100 in the Senate, all elected, and then we have 435 plus 3 from the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., its own district, and it has 3 different representatives, congresspeople. We call them congressmen or congresswomen. And 435 plus 3, that gives us 538. All are elected. The House of Representatives, all of them are up for elections every 2 years. Where you live, you have your federal district, and that is basically where your representative is, and that's where your representative will be up for election every 2 years, and they take office. The election is in November 3rd, but they take office on January 3rd, okay? The president doesn't take office, the president-elect doesn't take office on January 3rd, and I'll come into that, okay? Actually, it will be almost 17 days later, okay? On January 20th, usually his inauguration, okay? His formal inauguration. And we will go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you the same number, the 538 here, which is important because it's a number of our Congress people in both chambers, what we call bicamera. Bicamera is not your camera. Camera is a Latin word, means a chamber. So it's like 2 chambers or 2 bodies of representatives, whether senators or Congress people. And 538 also, it's a significant number because those are the electorate votes that the president will have to strive for, okay? That he will have to try to get as many as possible, as many electorates as possible out of that number. And if you move into the next slide, that's what I'm talking about. And you will see here the president, for example, kind of looks like President Trump right there. And I guess that could be President candidate, ex-VP Biden, for example. Both of them are running against each other. And we said 2 tickets usually. We have the president with the vice president, Mike Pence. We have VP Biden, and his VP candidate pick will be Kamala Harris, of senator from California, the state, biggest state, and she is used to be the AG, which is Attorney General. Then she went to become the senator from California instead of Barbara Boxer. Just a little history background, and then she became now running mate for Biden. Okay, so now they run on November 3rd, basically, or soon after. Usually there is a decision about who got most electoral votes, which we call the electorate, okay, or electoral votes, if you will. And if we move to the next slide, I love this slide because it shows you the whole entire US of A, okay? So you can pick which state you are. You should remember that number where you are, where you're watching. And that's the number basically of how many representatives in Congress, but also how many electorates the president wins if he gets the majority votes in your state, okay? For example, Texas, we have 38. You probably will notice that it's not by how big the size of the state is, okay? Because Texas is the biggest state of the union, size-wise. But population-wise, it's California. That's why you have California 55. Texas is 38, because the population of Texas is much less than California, okay? Even though Texas size is bigger than California. So it's by the population. And that's why the US Census, okay, the Census Office, that it does the count of how many people, the population, all the legal citizens, and there was a big fuss about it, whether we should count the legal citizens and should we count the illegal citizens. If you ever wondered why that is, because it affects actually directly into the composition of the Senate and how the president gonna win or not. So every little detail, it really means something, okay? You have Florida on the bottom, 29, and so forth and so on, okay? So many different states. You have Washington State has 12. Washington, D.C. doesn't have anything because it's not a state. It's a District of Columbia. And it's just a piece of land from Virginia and Maryland. They decided this is going to be the capital where we can put our Congress building, where we can put our White House, where we can put all the departments, including the Pentagon and Department of Treasury. All of them are right there, very close. And the National Mall is very interesting if you ever get the chance to visit Washington, D.C. and enjoy. And you may even be able to get tours to the White House, to Congress, and you see all these chambers of Congress. These are real, and they look exactly how you see them on TV. And it's very fascinating because there is, of course, a lot of history in those rooms. So with that said, I'm gonna move to the next one. And that's the number we call the magic number, if you remember last time. I hope my precious viewer, you remember what this magic number is. 270, big 270. President Donald Trump would love to get that number, and so is VP Biden. Both of them are trying very hard to get 270 number of electoral votes. How do they get that? Again, in case you are confused a little bit, it can get confusing. So it's okay if you are a little confused. How do you get to that number? By getting states, by winning the state, by getting the most votes within each state. We said last time, if you win California, you get all 55. You don't get 45 versus 11. Okay, 44 versus 11. Okay, 55. You don't get that. You get all or nothing. So, for example, if someone wins, say, 60,200,000 votes and one who wins, say, 60 million, the one who is just got the 200,000 extra, or even 2 or 2,000, okay? Hopefully it's not that close ever, because then that's when problems happen. But if we get to that number, that's when basically we have to carry. They claim that state for them. They said, well, we carried the state because we got most votes. Okay, so that's what that number. We add all these states that each candidate got, and whoever gets to 270 first wins. Okay, and that's the magic number. And I'm gonna move on to the next one, which it was towards the end of our last week segment, when we said, why is this election so important? Okay, and if you remember, we talked about our freedoms, which I keep saying, our rights and freedoms. Why is that big deal? Because guess what? If the government takes over, we do not have a capitalist society. We do not even have a free society, let alone freedoms. We're gonna be watched. We can be spied upon. No right of privacy. That's a fundamental right, by the way, in the Bill of Rights. Fundamental rights. Government cannot spy on you unless they get what is called a warrant. And the warrant, how do they get that? From a judge, from the judicial branch. They have to go convince a judge that there is a really good reason to wiretap or spy on someone's calls, or even get his phone records or emails or text or what have you. That's really, really important. That's why I keep emphasizing, please pay attention to what's going on around you. If you are conservative or not, or a Democrat, conservative, I mean Republican, and conservative and liberal, these are not just moral titles, by the way. These are policy titles. Many people would think, when we say conservatives, would think about, okay, they don't stand for abortion, they are pro-life, and they like morals, which is true. And hopefully they are not just lawbreakers. They are not, just going around burning bridges and buildings and what have you. And all that is true. But when we say conservative, also it's the fiscal meaning monetary, meaning money, economic policies. These are fiscal conservatism, okay? So versus liberal policies. And the difference is huge. One, trust the person. That will be the conservative views. Trust you with your own money. Trust that you know how to spend your money better than anyone else, especially the government. Versus the liberal views, which would take into account basically all the liberal agendas, okay? And I can think of 1,000 of them. That's why, I just definitely the policies, taxes, and what have you. So we're going to pick up from this point right here, right after a short break. So please stay with me, and I will see you on the other side of the commercial break. God bless.
Thank you for watching Trinity Channel and supporting AVNSat TV Ministry. You can further support this ministry through social media, Facebook and YouTube. Just search Trinity Channel and click on our page. From there, like, follow, and share our page on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel while clicking on the bell icon to the right to receive notifications on new videos that we will post to the channel each week. Most importantly, after watching a video on these sites, use the comment section to give your thoughts about the program. Continue to support this ministry by following us on social media.
ABN Türkiye kanalımızın değerli izleyicileri, çok yakında Arayın Bulacaksınız adlı yepyeni bir programla karşınızda olacağız. Canlı sohbet programlarımız her cuma Türkiye saatiyle 19 ile 20, Orta Avrupa saatiyle 18 ile 19, New York saatiyle öğleyin 12 ile 13 saatleri arasında olacak. İlk canlı yayınımıza 16 Ekim Cuma günü start vereceğiz. Yayınlarımızı 53 derece doğu yağ saat uydusunda, frekans 12.594, polarizasyon dikey, sembol oranı 27.500 olacak şekilde AD uydu alıcılarınızdan takip edebilirsiniz. Ayrıca ABN Sat YouTube kanalı üzerinden canlı olarak da izleyebilirsiniz. Ayrıntılı bilgi için www.abnturkey.com veya www.abnsat.com sitelerini ziyaret edebilirsiniz. Soru ve düşüncelerinizi abn@abnturkey.com elektronik posta adresimize gönderebilirsiniz. Yeni programlarımızda buluşmak dileğiyle.
ABN is now on all the most popular IP TV boxes: the Magic TV Box, the Glory Star Box, the iStar, US Nile, and the Extreme Box. By connecting one of these boxes to high-speed internet, you can watch both our ABN SAT channel and our English Trinity channel in HD. For more information, call 248-416-1300.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with me, and hopefully you will find it informative and interesting. So far, we've done almost a review of the system. I just wanted to do that because we basically gonna take it from here and go a couple of steps further about how our wonderful system works, okay? And we finished by saying conservative policies versus liberal policies. It's not just one for abortion, one for life. It's not about morals, and it may mean that. It's not just about certain religious beliefs, but it's much more than that. It's about fiscal policies. One trusts you and your hard-earned money. When you work, you earn money, obviously, hopefully, and that money, you should be able to spend it whichever way you please, except, a small portion should be for your taxes, rightly so, because the government has defense and has other big policies that we cannot individually afford. So there is a place for reasonable taxes. But the liberal policies very much is so different because they trust the government even with your money. So they usually ask for much more from the money. So you get a check for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and guess what? If it's up to the liberal policy, and I'm talking about the economic fiscal policy, guess what happens? We will basically stay on that. Yeah, please stay on that for a second. If you wonder what this has to do with what I'm saying, you would know for a second. This is you're looking at a picture of the Supreme Court, and I'm gonna get there in a second. But the policies basically, it has to do with money. It has to do with morals, yes, and it has, and they have to do with so many different things. It's a philosophy, really, of governing. For example, I said, if you would check, you would see the government is taking half of it. So you work 40 hours as if you're working 20 hours just to pay the government. That's a problem. Okay, some countries are like that, by the way, and they tell you we'll give you free healthcare, which sounds pretty good, except nothing is for free, because then you have to stand in line maybe for months until you see any doctor. Things change when the government is responsible versus the private sector that is competing to get your business. When the doctor calls you, hey, Mr. Such and Such or Mrs. Such and Such, would you like to set up an appointment to see the doctor? They are competing. You go to a hospital, they see you right away. All these are great things, but it's the private sector that is part of the conservative. And I'm not trying to advocate, but this is just the realities of the matter. So why is this election again so important? Because all these freedoms, all these rights, your governing system, how much you keep at the end of the day from your paycheck, it's on the line. We hear Vice President Biden saying, I'm gonna repeal all the taxes. And it's gonna probably, some estimate is gonna go be as much as 4 times as much. And then if he gives you anything free, trust me, it's not gonna be worth it, because we are not Venezuela, where you want to stand in line to get bread or gas or any of that. One of the richest nation in gas, they don't even have gas, and those are what we call the socialist agenda. It doesn't start right away, but guess what? It progresses. So you are looking at the freedoms again. It starts with taking your freedoms, allowing the government to get into your business, into your privacy, taking away your arms, okay, your handgun or whatever. If you are have a licensed gun or what have you, this is a protected right. It's almost similar to your right to vote. That's a protected civil right, even though you don't see it on the screen. Your right to privacy, your right to equal treatment under the law. These are all specific rights that you and I have under our wonderful Constitution. I am very proud of this Constitution, and you're going to hear me saying that over and over again. And I pray that we keep our freedoms, we stand up for our freedoms, okay? Definitely by voting and doing our homework before we vote, so we don't accidentally put the wrong people in that tell us anything. Don't trust. You probably know that by now, because we see even today and yesterday, Twitter censored, prohibited free speech by not allowing documents, emails that are reveal corruption of government relatives, Joe Biden's son in this situation. We need to know these things. We need to know who's corrupt. We need to know who just works for his family, or do you work for the American people, or do you work for your own pocket? Okay, how do they accumulate that wealth just on government salaries, which is 100 to 200,000, most of them. Okay, the president himself, he makes $400,000. So it sounds maybe like a lot, but guess what? After taxes and all that, trust me, it's not going to be a lot. So with that said, we're going to move to that to the next slide, and how we protect our freedoms. Okay. And you probably guessed it by now, by supporting candidates, okay, and nominees, okay, people that are running for office, that carry our values, that understand me as a citizen. I work hard. I want to be paid. I want to support my family. You are the same way. I don't want the government to take more than what's reasonable. It's good to pay the government what's the government's. And I hope that we don't elect people that allow the government to take so much taxes, for example, and other things. With that comes other rights that are being stripped away. So when we support the nominees, okay, take, for example, when we support the right agenda, okay, what would we get? We will get the president, say the president of the United States. If you're voting conservative, okay, I tend to lean conservative. I am independent, in case you wonder. I want to just do that, put it way up front, right in front of you. I voted Democratic before, and I voted Republican before. But guess what? Nowadays, it's very clear what the left progressive agenda. We know that the left, we call the left, the Democratic Party, keeps moving to the left. That meaning keeps getting more radical, keeps trying to take more freedoms away. And that's what I'm warning from. I am totally for people in the middle, Republicans or Democrats. Okay, I'm not here to tell you how to vote. This is your God-given right. Okay, vote whichever you want. Just to please understand, when you vote, your vote gonna have lots of consequences. When you pick the right nominee, the president, as we're gonna see in a second, he has a lot of powers. And a lot of powers that affect you and I. Okay, the same with the senators, have a lot of powers. The same with the representatives. They write all our laws. the Senate and the House, they write our laws, and we're going to get into that as well. So stay tuned. I hope I can cover as much as I want to cover tonight. Okay, you are looking at the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is very, very important. Why it's important? Because it upholds, their job number one for the Supreme Court is to uphold the U.S. Constitution. 9 justices on the Supreme Court. Today, we have only 8 because one vacancy from RBG, Ruth Ginsburg. She passed away, as you probably know. And now there is a nomination through President Trump that went to the Senate this week as we speak. Today was the last day of the hearings, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And guess what? She will be up for a hearing in that committee, which is the Judicial Committee. And if she's confirmed by this committee, it goes to the floor, okay? And I'm going to come back to that as well. She goes to the floor for confirmation. If she gets 51 votes, she becomes the 9th justice today, okay? And she fills that vacancy. Very, very important position. Why? Because it's also for life. The building you're looking at on the screen, it's really, it's an icon, if you will. Yes, the White House indeed, and the Congress, absolutely, what we call Capitol Hill. They're all iconic, but the Supreme Court has no army, has no power, except the only branch of government that has no power except its word, its opinion. They cannot enforce it any other way. They write their opinion and it becomes the law of the land. And their opinion is not new law. It's just merely only interpreting the law that the Congress wrote, okay? So with that said, basically, when we have a healthy justice system, guess what? We get fair treatment under the law, and the opposite is true, okay? We want the justices that are not activists. What I mean by that? I mean, if you have a justice who is sworn, if you watch any of these hearings, Judge Amy Barrett, hopefully soon becomes a Justice Barrett, she kept saying one over and over, time and time again, she kept saying, my job is not to write law. That's your job, talking to the senators and Congress people. That's their job to write the law. And she goes, it's not about me. It's not about even what my own views are. It's about what the law says, what the Constitution says. And that's why it's so important. We basically elect people that nominate people, or when they vote themselves, like senators or representatives, they are moderate. They do not take the country in one extreme or the other, okay? And hopefully conservative for all the reasons I said. But if you want to vote whichever, that's totally up to you. And I totally understand. Half of the nation is one way, the other half is we are all good and we are all equal in God's eyes. And we move on basically about the balance of powers, okay? Why is balance of powers very important? Because if we go to the next slide, please, you will see in the next slide, that's you copy a picture of the US Constitution, okay? In the Constitution, there is something called the balance of powers. The 3 branches I mentioned earlier, they have to balance each other. They are equally effective and equally enforce. They are equal, okay? And they together enforce the laws. One writes, one approves it, the executive branch carries it out, and of course the the judiciary interprets those laws in case there is issues about those laws, okay? So the balance of powers is very important, okay? And if you go right here and to the next one, I want to start this right here, you would see in front of you Article 3, Section 1, and I'm going to read it, why it's so important. Because it's about the judicial power. The judicial power that's right out of the Constitution, U.S. Constitution. And I'm reading it. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, that's all the other federal courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. All it says, basically, it's the power that basically is vested. Vested means entrusted into the judicial branch to do their job, okay? And to have, if we go to the next slide, please, another part of the U.S. Constitution, same picture, and we go to one more, and we will see the powers, some of the powers of a president, the U.S. President, Donald Trump at this point. And it says, he, the president, shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. As long as 2/3 of the Senate agree, which is concur, that means, the president basically have power to do what he's about to do. And he shall nominate, that's his powers, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, again, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. So the power is vested in the president to nominate, and the power to confirm, which the Constitution calls consent and advice, okay? Advice and consent, that's the Senate, the 100 senators, okay? And if you recall, today until November 3rd, the majority is still in the Republicans' hand. So when you have one party controlling the White House and one party controlling the Senate, things move easier, especially with the appointments of judges. It's notable to mention here at this point that during the tenure of President Trump, basically he appointed, with the Senate's stamp of approval, over 300 federal judges through the appellate courts, what we call circuit courts, and the federal courts, the district courts. And of course, he already appointed 2 people to the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court, and 1 hopefully on its way. Okay? I just want to make you understand how the system works, why everything is connected, really. Okay? And understanding that your voting affects everything. Okay? Affects the court, affects your agenda, really, as a citizen. If you believe in lower taxes, or if you believe on freedoms, or if you believe in personal rights, all these are very fundamental things we need to be mindful of. Okay? Moving along here, I wanted to cover a couple of other things before we run out of time about the Constitution. Okay? Why 9 people? Have you ever wondered why 9 people or justices on the Supreme Court? I want to say there is nothing in the Constitution from what we read, and trust me, we didn't read the whole Constitution. You can read it on your own. It's not very lengthy, a few pages. But of course, there is case law as well. We can cover that later, which becomes almost law, which I called the precedent before. But the Constitution does not say it has to be 9. But why is it 9? Why is it 9 justices? Why can it be 10, 11, 12? It's notable to know that other presidents tried that long time ago, okay? And over 150 years ago, there was an act, okay? And if we move into the next slide, please. This is about, and we move one more. I'm going to come back to court packing. Those are, you're looking at the justices, 9 of them. One of them is missing. That's the late Justice Ginsburg, who passed away in September. And her seat is vacant today. And basically, you would see in the corner, it says the Judiciary Act of 1869 established one Chief Justice, which is Justice Roberts, right in the middle, sitting right in the middle, John Roberts, who was appointed by President Bush, by the way, W. Bush, and Bush 43, that is. And then we have 8 associate justices, okay? So 8 of them. And that's according to the Judiciary Act of 1869. And I'll tell you why this is relevant, okay? Because if we go to the next one, you see all these question marks, okay? What do I mean by putting all these question marks? That is what I call court packing. It says on top of the slide right there, what court packing looks like. Guess what court packing is? You guessed it, extra justices. Why is that dangerous? Why 9 is good enough? Because it's always 4 against 5. You know, they cannot be split. Because if there is a split in court, to say today, a lot of us wonder what happens if the court sees something, like go over a case today. Reviews, what we call reviews a case today, and it's a split 4 and 4. It goes back all the way to the entry court, the district court, and that decision would stand. Very dangerous, because it could be, say, out of one town or one district, out of one state in the US, and guess what? It becomes law on the rest of the land without looking at the big picture of the whole US of A. That's why it's a 9, 5, and 4. Okay, good enough number to discuss ideas. That's democracy. We discuss, we agree, we disagree, but it's how democracies work, right? That's what we choose for our lives. And hopefully we always make those choices. We always choose civil disagreements. Perfect to disagree with me. No problem. I love people when they disagree. It's good, actually, because I get to put myself in their shoes, understand. But when we have 4 of them extra, imagine if Donald Trump had the power. Say you are conservative, okay? Let's take one side first. And Donald Trump has the power with the Senate changing the rules, and he said, you know what, we're going to make him 15, okay? And then he appoints all his justices, okay, people that has exactly his mindset. Guess what happens to the rest of the other half of the country? They're probably going to riot, because that's not representing the whole country, okay? That's not how our system works. Our system was not built on one party win all or lose all. It was built on you put some, I put some, let the best idea wins. Okay? Let the best laws win. Let the best policies win. That's our system. That's why packing, we call it packing the court. Packing the court is nothing more than adding justices. Last president who tried to attempt that was 1936, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And the 2 houses were the same party as he was. And he was on the Democratic side. And guess what? They resisted him vividly, or fervently, if you will. Why is that? Because it's going to be one system. How about all the other people that don't really believe the same way in morals or financial systems or free markets or creativity or entrepreneurship or America First, for example. How about that? If you believe in globalism and you want to outsource every job and all the policies and the laws that comes out of a body rubber stamped by the Supreme Court, then guess what? That's not really good. Let me tell you, we're going to go to a clip right now. I want you to watch it, and that will be what Vice President Biden saying about court packing or refusing to say, and what Kamala Harris, to give you an idea what's really going on the ground and not just what we talk about here on the show. Take a look.
My opinion of court packing when the election is over. Now look, I know it's a great question, y'all, and I don't blame you for asking it. But the moment I answer that question, the headline in every one of your papers will be about that.
But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way? People, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you now.
The American people deserve a straight answer. And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election.
We first have to win the majority before that can happen. But once we win the majority, God willing, everything is on the table.
You saw it. You have. Last one was the minority leader in the Senate saying everything on the table. We're going to pack the court. That's a no. That's really dangerous to our democracy. Very dangerous. And I wanted you to hear from them what these candidates are about. What VP Biden said, what Kamala Harris refused to say. They both refused to admit that usually you say, no, I'm not for court packing. And that's what Biden said years and years ago, repeatedly. We didn't run it here tonight, but he repeatedly said that. Okay. But nowadays it's very dangerous times because you could take this country, wonderful country of ours, into an extreme. I'm going to also show you the other side, what Senator Ted Cruz of Texas is saying about that. Okay. So take a look.
And how many of our liberties are just one vote away from being taken away?
Right. Well, poll after poll, the Supreme Court ranks very high as something that voters are thinking about. I think the timing is amazing. What are your thoughts on expanding the Supreme Court, the number of justices? What does that do for the integrity of the court itself and even our country?
So, Charles, I think packing the court would be incredibly damaging. It was striking last night in the debate. I think Vice President Pence did a terrific job. And 4 times he tried to nail Kamala Harris down on whether or not she and Joe Biden support packing the court. And 4 times she just refused to answer, like Joe Biden did last week. And I think the reason is that they and their party, they want to pack the court. They want to fill it with political cronies. That would destroy the independence of the court. And it really is a radical vision. But, I also took encouragement. The fact that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are running away from their extreme agenda, they're not defending it in the debates. It shows just how unpopular that is with the American people. We want constitutionalists who will protect our speech, who will protect our religious liberty. And that's why the confirmation of Judge Barrett is so important right now.
You saw it. You saw it. That's, in a nutshell, what's on the ballot, what's important. We are very much, it's almost time, but I want to end by this. We want to do our homework when we vote. And I cannot overemphasize that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave you with one quote and we pick up next time. Today, we are 19 days away from election. So next week will be 12 days. So it's getting closer and closer. So please vote early or vote November 3rd. If you can vote and you're allowed to vote, please vote. But Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said something very fundamental. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And that is fundamental. My life began to end when I'm silent, when I'm quiet about what matters. And there is so much I can go on and on with examples, and we will pick up next time. I promise will be very good show as well. And I hope you learned something this time from this show. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at the same time, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific time, right here on the Trinity Channel. Take care and God bless.
You are watching Trinity Channel.
Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Here at ABN, we have a prayer room filled with people who would love to join in prayer with you. For more information, please call us at 248-416-1300 or message us through our Facebook pages, ABN Sat or Trinity Channel, in order to pray privately with you. Thanks and God bless.
Thank you for watching Trinity Channel and supporting ABN Sat TV ministry. You can further support this ministry through social media, Facebook and YouTube. Just search Trinity Channel and click on our page. From there, like, follow, and share our page on Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel while clicking on the bell icon to the right to receive notifications on new videos that we will post to the channel each week.